don't know this, I'm sorry, we couldn't have attended. This time, I'm sure we will have even better press conference. And as far as questions are concerned, after I finish, you may ask as many questions as you like. But one by one, so that everybody can listen. And raise your hand. You rectify whether it is paper or speech. In the evening from Guwahati and started our work with a presentation from the CEO and from the police nodal officer yesterday morning. After that, we had more than 2 hours of interaction with the political parties. A very in-depth interaction with the political parties. Because we are of the firm view that after the voter, the most important ingredient of the election is the political parties stroke entities. After that, we had again another detailed interaction with all the central and state enforcement agencies. After that, we had a meeting till about 10:30 yesterday night with DMs, police commissioners, SPs, divisional commissioners and IGs. It was one of the longest meetings we had in the recent times because they all had a lot to contribute by way of giving us feedback and to reply to our queries. Today morning, we started our day by meeting the 3 disability icons of West Bengal, and it was a memorable meeting in the sense that one could sense the way they have tried to triumph over their circumstances and still maintain their peace, equanimity, harmony, and are in fact trying to help the commission. After that, we had a meeting with Chief Secretary, Principal Secretary Home, DGP, and all their senior officers. And as has been the tradition of the commission, now we are in front of you, the 4th estate of the country, who are as important an adjunct of the commission and always helpful in the electoral process. All these 3 people whom we met in the morning, they are the icons for the Election Commission of West Bengal, stated icons, and they have been participating in a number of ways. So press is the last court of our kind of last stop before we leave for Delhi. The term of the State Assembly in West Bengal is due to expire on 30th May 2021. Election Commission of India is committed to conduct forthcoming assembly elections in the state in free, fair, ethical and safe manner while endeavoring to ensure high voter participation amidst peaceful, harmonious atmosphere. And yes, the voter participation in West Bengal has been very high. In 2016, it was 82.80. In 2014, Parliament, it was 82.20. In 2019, it was 81.69. And the election election was held in 2016 in 6 phases. Actually, one phase was split into 2 phases, A and B, so effectively 7 phases. And the Lok Sabha elections, as you are aware, were held in 7 phases. As per the special summary revision, in 2019, the additions were 3.04%, deletions were 0.52%. In 2020, additions were 3.45%, deletion was 0.42%. In 2021, additions have been 2.84% and deletions 0.84%. I would request our CEO to kindly make sure that all of you get this statement, which is a district-wise breakup in West Bengal of the current revision of electoral rules.
Down, sir.
I'll be coming to you anyway. Yes, sit down now. As I told you, we had almost 2-hour interaction with the political parties. I'll give you some of the highlights of that meeting. Most political parties showed concerns of law and order situation. They spoke of high voltage electioneering, which can become violent and threaten to vitiate the electoral process. We are just paraphrasing what they said. I am repeating, we are just paraphrasing what they said. They also talked about provocative slogans, a communally charged atmosphere, etc., etc. They also wanted optimal deployment of CAPFs to be ensured. They also desired that videography webcasting be done at polling stations so that voters are assured of safe voting area. Representatives specifically mentioned that liquor or even food inducements, packet inducements be curtailed in poverty-ridden tribal areas. Some political parties cited the concern about anomalies in electoral roll, etc. They drew the attention of the Commission on the vital role of central observers. Here I would like to tell you that it has been a settled policy of the Commission not to send the observers who belong to the same state or who have worked here in the past in any capacity, even on deputation. So they are all, and this is all over India. In addition, in the last parliamentary election, we had to send special observers to West Bengal and Tripura due to some local issues. We had sent one special observer for law and order and one special observer, general special observer. Both of them, the two sent to Tripura and the two sent to West Bengal, they all extremely experienced, very dedicated, with formidable reputation for integrity. And they did a very good job. This time, as it is within the Commission, we are in discussion, and we are going to do, our officers already doing more detailed profiling of observers to ensure that the observers are really, they can discharge their duties as expected from them. We are also very clear that on the day we announce the elections, in West Bengal, or for that matter in Assam, or for that matter in Tamil Nadu, it all be announced together. We will send expenditure observers as law and order observers, special law and order observers, and special general observers as per the assessment made by a commission of various states. And we will also make sure this time, although these are standard instructions, but we will make very sure that we share with you in the press as to when the district observers will be available to meet anybody with a grievance, including any feedback if press wants to give one-to-one directly, which circuit house or which place they will be available. It will be a public place, and we will also publish their mobile numbers in the local press. That all shall be duly ensured. In fact, you see, our system is that first we have a senior officer of the rank of Joint Secretary and above in the Commission who looks after various states. West Bengal is looked after by Sudeep Jain. He is in charge of West Bengal and Kerala. He is also in charge of EVMs throughout the country. He has visited West Bengal twice in the last 1 month. And after our observers go, similarly, another person went to Assam. After our officers give us feedback, then the commission comes. So he has visited twice. Commission heard him at length about various issues, and that is why now his visit has been succeeded. His visit preceded our visit. Also, tomorrow, that is Saturday, we have now done 2 visits. We started with Assam, and today West Bengal visit will be finished. So tomorrow at 4:30, we have kept a meeting in the Election Commission of India to discuss more threadbare the gist of our observations and what further plan of action we would be thinking of. Of course, tomorrow's meeting is an internal meeting. There will be no press briefing after that. But obviously, when we announce the elections, it will be announced to you or your friends who are in Delhi in the press conference on that day. And you would naturally be knowing it through your own channels and through your own newspapers. It was all political parties, while talking to us at least, they reposed their faith in the role entrusted to the Commission and how the Commission has been performing it. They also voiced their concern for misuse of social media for spreading fake news, communally provocative speeches, misuse of government machinery, misuse of money power, and asked for Commission to take effective steps in this direction. On the social media, I want to report to you, my dear friends, that during the Lok Sabha elections, as most of you are already aware, our senior officers engaged into very detailed dialogue with the social media handles and their apex organizations in Delhi. After that, the apex organizations in Delhi, they submitted a voluntary code of ethics, probably unheard of in any democracy, because as you're all aware, the regulatory regime in our country in terms of social media is still an act in the making. Unlike UK, in which it has already reached a certain level, and Germany, where it is now a well-structured regulatory regime. And that commitment which they had given for the Lok Sabha stands true for the assembly elections as well. So we have emphasized in the meeting with the Chief Secretary and senior officers that all officers who are concerned with it, the copy of that voluntary code of ethics is with the Chief Electoral Officer, Dr. Aftab, that they should be internally shared and a strategy evolved to handle them. We will be handling them as we have tried to do so far, as you call it, a bit of iron fist in a velvet glove. So I hope there should be sufficient to rein them in if required and as and when required. Some political parties, they also reiterated that the transfer of officers, etc., should be ensured. You are all aware that Commission already has a policy in this regard. And today morning, the Chief Secretary again reiterated that the policy, already they have started kind of doing all this in West Bengal civil services. And as regards IS, IPS is concerned, that policy shall be observed in letter and in spirit and in the immediate future. It was Chief Secretary and DG and Home Secretary who gave these assurances individually and together. The political parties also mentioned that polling agents should be kept outside and at sufficient distance of more than 200 meters away from the booth area so that polling personnel can function smoothly and independently. As I told you that we have a meeting tomorrow of the Commission, we will consider some of these things in that meeting. They also talked of the voters' awareness campaigns, which we are already doing. You must also be aware that due to COVID now, whether it is Bihar or Assam or Bengal, the number of polling stations, instead of 1,500, it is now 1,000. As a result of which, Bengal had 78,903 polling stations, and these additional polling stations, which are called auxiliary polling stations, are 22,887. In other words, now West Bengal has total 101,790 polling stations. We found that as many as 2,950 polling stations are located above ground level. We had faced this challenge in Mumbai earlier, where almost 6,000 polling stations are located above ground level. We took a conscious decision that this is a zero tolerance area and have directed the district administration as well as the senior officers of the West Bengal government in the morning meeting with Chief Secretary that every single polling station has to be brought at the ground floor level. This is being done especially because of our commitment towards the 80 plus and voters as well as persons with disability. In fact, in the morning meeting only, one of the icons told us that how he had voted for the first time. The polling station was 2 or 3 stories above and he had to be carried in a stretcher. I am glad to report to you that all district magistrates, they have given us a very clear undertaking. And the Chief Secretary today in the morning has also reinforced that undertaking that all polling stations shall be, I am repeating the word shall be, at the ground floor level. Of course with ramps, etc., as required or as per the norms of CPWD. So to that extent, the West Bengal district machinery as well as the senior officers will place on our appreciation on record that they seem to be very committed to ensure this. In fact, many political parties also, while paying compliment to the Election Commission for the recent directive to protect our chief electoral officials and other election officials working with him, we will that they should not be victimized till 1 year after the elections, on any grounds which may be related actually to the fact that the CEO was very independent and impartial. So sometimes flimsy ground are made up. Where we are aware of such cases in the past, and we have already sent a letter to the Cabinet Secretary as well as to DOPT as well as to the Chief Secretaries of all states and UTs that after the election is over, 1 year after that, if they are to take action against CEOs and officers working with CEO, they have to take the permission from the Election Commission. This is also in accordance with the observations of Honorable Supreme Court in various cases. We are between three of us examining now with our legal teams that this observation should be extended, this protection should be extended to the district officers. Which means DMs and SPs, because there have been many cases where the people whom we removed earlier, they were given prize postings, and the people who performed their duties in an upright manner and who were posted in the place of those who were removed, later on sent to some kind of a so-called unattractive postings or punishment postings. That we are moving. I can't say whether we will be able to move it immediately to the government or next week or 10 days, but we are moving in that direction. But we were very kind of happy to note that the political parties unanimously appreciated the initiative of Commission in trying to protect the CEOs and officers working with them. We also heard from political parties something about civic police and green police in West Bengal. Since we had not heard this word before, so we sought some detailed inputs yesterday from the district officers and today from Chief Secretary, Home Secretary and DGP. They said it all started from Calcutta Municipal Corporation, from their funds, but this police has been created by an executive action and not by a legislative backing. So without going into the merits of civic police or green police, our own belief as Commission is that even anybody who is given even a semblance of uniform in one way or the other assumes a position of authority, and therefore especially if he is a contractual, he or she is a contractual employee, his or her presence anywhere near the election scene could be detrimental to the conduct of free and fair elections, and therefore we have taken a cast iron assurance from the Chief Secretary and the DGP and Home Secretary, because here in West Bengal the CP of Kolkata reports directly to Home Secretary, unlike other states, that there shall be no civic police anywhere near any action relating to the polling, and no green police. So we are sanguine, or we would want to be sanguine, that an assurance given in a high-powered meeting by Chief Secretary, Home Secretary and by the DGP shall be implemented. Otherwise, my friends, we know how to get these things implemented. Commission recognizes that fidelity of electoral rolls is the brick and mortar of the election process. So that is why I am requesting my colleague, I have already requested that he should give to you this statement, which he will be giving before you leave this place. The special summary revision, I have already mentioned the figures. As West Bengal basis for the polls, the total number of electors in West Bengal is 7.33 CR. And as I have already said, but I repeat, as per SS 2021, the 80 plus voters, now this I have not said earlier, the 80 plus voters, out of this are 11.57 lakhs, service voters 1.12 lakhs, and persons with disability 4.54 lakhs. ERs are available for public viewing and sharing with all the political parties. We are also very happy to report to you that the electoral gender ratio in West Bengal is 961 as compared with the state population gender ratio of 950. This is a mark of the kind of progressive milieu as far as political participation is concerned in West Bengal. I need not reiterate that Commission has zero tolerance about misuse of muscle power, money power, or government machinery. You may say that Commission always says this, but still incidents happen. I'm not denying that. But at the same time, whenever, if ever, anything has come to our notice, we try to move very swiftly. For example, last time, during the Lok Sabha elections, we based on the reports of the special police observer as well as the general observer, the Commission on one day after considering all the reports had a very in-depth discussion on the contents of the reports and had to relocate two officers from the IS. I will not take any name because we don't want to unnecessarily take names of people, and as many as 5 police commissioners and couple of SPs. So I'm just not reading out how many inspectors and all that. That was called kind of in a black humor, a Black Friday here in the circles of various levels of bureaucracy, etc. But what had to be done was done. Election expenditure is closely monitored so that money power doesn't vitiate level playing field. And as I said, this time we already decided to send, besides the special police observer and general observer, a special expenditure observer in West Bengal as well as Assam, because we feel that in more than one ways there are kind of possibilities of money power being misused in most of the states these days. I would not like to quantify, although we have the figures internally, as to how much money power is being misused where, but we will try to keep a watch on it. Chief Secretary, already I have talked to you about the Commission's transfer policy and Chief Secretary's assurance that we followed in letter and spirit. Mock polls, the issue which some political parties raised in a different manner, are done on each, please, this is important, on each EVM and VVPAT at least thrice as per already established norms and in presence of political party representatives at every stage. Randomization of machines is done twice by use of applicable IT applications. Standard EVM VVPAT placement norms in polling booths ensure that the machines are cordoned off behind a screen to ensure privacy for the voters. Some political parties did emphasize this point about that the privacy has to be ensured. So we will, through our district observers, we will make sure that wherever there is a gap, it is not allowed to remain. Keeping in view the COVID special norms, social distancing norms, the Commission has specifically revisited some existing norms. As a result, the maximum number of electors at the polling stations has been reduced. I have already told you this. And we have also taken today a detailed meeting of the COVID preparations, we were told that overall, Principal Secretary Home is heading that team, and all the three important secretaries who are involved in this, Principal Secretary Health, Principal Secretary Education, ACS of Principal Secretary Education, and MSME people would be doing the procurement. You see, the COVID preparations are two parts. One is the procurement of hard material, its distribution, and the other is the actual kind of dissemination of the slogans and flyers, etc., etc. Our election, within the election commission, our colleague has been specifically mentioning that the destruction of the COVID-related equipment immediately after the elections in the incinerators is also very important. So that part was also reviewed today. In fact, I am glad to report to you that the presentations made by the senior officers today on this aspect were in-depth, very detailed, and quite meticulous. And it was very obvious that the Chief Secretary was in complete command of his team and coordinating all the COVID-related efforts. So I am sure that the kind of meticulousness which has been reflected in the presentations will also be duly reflected on the ground. You're all aware that a couple of sometime back, Commission introduced a postal ballot facility and special facilitation for 80 plus and for persons with disability. And the BLOs will do a house-to-house visit for facilitation of Form 12D for senior citizens and PWD electors so that they can exercise their option for postal ballot if they so desire. It's totally voluntary for them. In fact, in Delhi, in many cases, we found that many senior citizens, even 2 or 3 cases, more than 90 or 100, they wanted to come out and vote. That is their prerogative and their privilege. And many senior citizens prefer to avail of the facility of the postal ballots. As I said, it's completely voluntary. And this initiative of the Commission was immediately approved at all levels. And to the extent our feedback is that by and large, the civil society in general and most of the NGOs in particular have welcomed it and kind of asked the Commission to ensure its more rigorous implementation. I have already taken the numbers of the 80 plus voters and the persons with PWD, so this will be available to all of them. For facilitating candidates who are contesting elections, in addition to the existing practice of submitting nomination papers by candidates in offline mode, nomination form and affidavit can also be now submitted in the online mode, etc. Another thing I would like to mention to you is a very important tool of empowerment of citizens which was created by the Commission sometimes back and which is really kind of taken off in a very big way, that is C-Vigil. Any of you, any citizen can kind of go to the C-Vigil and talk about, give some feedback on various aspects, whether it is misuse of money, intimidation, etc., etc. It's a tool of empowerment of citizens. Similarly, the citizens can go to 1950. You're all aware that our republic was announced on 26 January 1950 and Election Commission was announced. They were so far-sighted on 5th January 1950. And that is why the Commission chose 1950 as the number which can be used for the citizens to register their feedback, their queries. So in other words, you have 1950 as well as C-Vigil for these purposes. In C-Vigil, the additional thing is that should you want to remain anonymous and because of fear of or apprehension of fear of intimidation or pressure, you could kind of not disclose your name or anything, and then the answer will be given to you of your disposal of your complaint through media. And if somebody gives his or her name, the answer will be given to him or her directly. I think I have covered most of the points. You would remember that in the recent Bihar elections, our officials did a press conference on the counting day 4 to 5 times to keep you all updated, including in the night around 12 o'clock. That is now a template, and the similar arrangements will be made for a press conference by senior officials of Election Commission, in this case led by Mr. Sudeep Jain, and of course under Mr. Umesh Till, the senior most officer. They will keep you completely briefed, besides our websites and all that, on the status of counting on a real-time basis. With this, I hope, you see, West Bengal has been a thought leader of India and world for many years, for centuries in fact, and still is, and will remain. So, just as West Bengal has been the thought leader in that, we expect political parties also, and we told them that, we are very happy that you are giving us your feedback, but all of you are saying that you want a free and fair election, but we also hope and expect that you will all cooperate fully with ensuring a free and fair elections. I will close my opening statement at the moment. Shefali ji will take over. My only request to you is whether you want to ask 10, 15, 20 questions. We are here for you. We have come all the way only for this. But if you can please ask it one by one, instead of me deciding, let Shefali handle it, then it will be easier for all of other people to listen and follow. Thank you.
I'll give everyone a chance. Let's begin from the left. I'll then come back to right, and I'll keep switching over. Begin with you, follow me. The question is, sir, thank you. The question is, sir, two questions. One is, do you have any plan that Central Force should deploy before 2 and 3 months before election?
Can you repeat your question? Somebody spoke from the back and you became inaudible.
Do you have any plan to deploy Central Force before 2 and 3 months ago of election? And second question is, we have seen last Lok Sabha election, that Central Force, 10% Central Force to cover election. So is there any plan in this election also?
You see, one of the very major parts, can I answer that first? One of the very major parts of the election preparation is the engagement of our very senior officers with the MHA officials and the DGs of Central Forces. At least 4 or 5 rounds have already taken place. Finally, the Union Home Secretary and Special Secretary Home, they also came to the Commission to brief us on the situation and availability of forces. There is, and you also will realize that there are limitations to the numbers of Central Forces. In any case, we can never discuss numbers for operational reasons. But we keep in view the feedback of the political parties. And accordingly, we kind of engage with the Home Secretary, etc., based on that feedback, plus the feedback of our officers. So I don't know who gave you this idea that we are going to deploy Central Forces 2 months before or 3 months before. We will go by our own SOPs and deploy them as and when necessary. And in the Central Forces, for example, a force being deployed in West Bengal may be coming from, let us say, northeast, or maybe coming from up north. So we take into account all the issues. I mean, their transportation. For that matter, our officers engage with the chairman, railway board and others, and we also talk to them at the commission level. And therefore, it's a combination of efforts of all of us, but central forces shall be deployed as per our final assessment and shall be deployed when required. But of course, in advance, but not 3 months in advance. You see, Home Ministry doesn't have kind of unlimited central forces. The internal security of the situation also demands the engagement of central forces in many other places. For example, there are 23 companies already in West Bengal in some sensitive areas, already here. So they will be required. We will deploy as much as we can. I'm repeating that. And you are very intelligently trying to peg me down to some numbers, which I apologize, but I will not.
Aapka sir. Sir, I'm Pooja from Z News. Sir, 2 questions. My first question.
Why everybody is asking 2 questions? Why not 1 question?
Let's go by 1 each so that each one of us gets the time. Sir, while you were meeting political parties yesterday, 2 political parties have leveled serious concerns. One political party has said that BSF is entering hinterland and is trying to terrorize voters and asking them to vote in favor of a political party. Another party has said that there is a significant rise in voters in the Bangladesh bordering districts.
Sorry?
There is a significant rise in voters in the districts neighboring Bangladesh.
I'll give you answers one by one. Actually, whichever political party made this averment about BSF, it is unfortunate. BSF is one of the finest forces in the country. They are the sentinels of our borders. It has been founded by some iconic police officers like Rustamji and Ashwini Kumarji, and they have maintained the traditions. When we asked that political party, and I asked from this open forum, that can you please give us some concrete instances? In fact, most of your channels were playing this news, including in Delhi, all the day, without even seeking the version from the commission, knowing full well that all of us are going to meet today. So there is no point castigating any forces ad nauseum, whether it is BSF or the state police forces. They are sentinels of our borders. And in state police forces also, when we saw the presentations yesterday, some of the presentations by DMs and SPs were outstanding. What is your second question?
Increase in voters. Rise in voters in Bangladesh neighboring.
We are giving you now a full list, published list. So now you are welcome to kind of check it out yourself.
Sir, they say that there are names of Rohingyas and Bangladeshi immigrants. So are you going to verify the list once again?
We are not going to verify the lists ad nauseum. We will, in our internal meeting, we always, not just West Bengal, from every SSR, our team of officers sitting in Delhi, they take a closer look, and if there is any palpable substantive issue, empirical issue, we do take corrective measures.
Sir, my question, I'm Polimi from India Today. Polimi Saha from India Today, sir, related to something that...
Calling from?
Polimi from India Today.
Okay.
My question is related to what Pooja asked over there as well. You kind of didn't complete that sentence. So when you asked for instances from, I believe, the Trinamool who made that charge against the BSF yesterday, what did they say? And secondly, the BJP has been demanding an early implementation of the MCC. What do you have to say about that?
MCC starts only when the election dates are announced. So when the dates are announced before your colleagues in Delhi, MCC will come into operation. So So this is the answer to your question number 2. You named a particular political party, we never name a party. So it is only your presumption that such and such party said this, right? Either your presumption or somebody has informally briefed you, right? But as far as so far, we haven't got any instances, and if we get any instances, it doesn't mean it has to be given to us in these 2 days. We have the CEO here. Let any party furnish instance to us by email or anything, you see, we will then come into picture. But till then, we cannot tarnish the sentinels of the borders of our nation.
A question here on the right.
Sir, this is Shogoto Mukhopadhyay from CNN News 18. Sir, the commission has been visiting Bengal for quite some time now, about a month and a half. Earlier it was Mr. Sudeep Jain who had come over. Now under your leadership, the full bench of commission has come over, have spoken to all the stakeholders in this election. So what is your overall assessment of the law and order situation in the state of Bengal?
We are not here to pass judgments on these forums, but yes, we will be watching it carefully.
आपका सवाल है.
Sir, I am Shoibal from Times of India. Sir, actually the problem is not about the number of forces, but there has been always an allegation that the central forces are not used properly. They are allowed to sit in a manner so that they cannot work in an effective way. Sir, in that cases, the state government has been leveled with the charges that the state administration is not working in tandem with the state central. How do you want to solve this problem?
We political parties, we are not going to accept it in a kind of blanket manner that CPF is not deployed meaningfully. But still, since this feedback, somebody has made these averments, in any case, before the elections, we normally have a meeting with the heads of the departments of all the forces. We will bring it to their notice.
आपका सवाल इधर से राइट से लीजिए.
This is Anupam Mishra from India TV. मेरा सवाल आपसे है कि पॉलिटिकल वायलेंस जो है हमेशा से एक कंसर्न रहा है.
आगे आ जाए प्लीज.
और आगे
आवाज नहीं आ रही आपकी.
हेलो
जी.
दिस इज अनुपम मिश्रा फ्रॉम इंडिया टीवी.
जी जी.
माय क्वेश्चन इज, यहाँ पॉलिटिकल वायलेंस हमेशा से ही एक कंसर्न रहा है. उसके लिए कुछ खास इंतजाम इस बार कोई बातचीत हुई है या कुछ एक्स्ट्रा स्टेप्स लेने की कोई योजना?
In yesterday's meeting itself, before the meeting started, we had sent a message to all the district magistrates, especially the SPs, that we would like to review especially the incidents of last 6 months, including serious crimes, etc., and which had political overtones. And all the SPs came with that statement, and although it was such a short notice, and commissioners also came, we have kind of given some directions wherever we felt we should be giving. Although to say that again in a blanket manner and to tarnish, after all your Lok Sabha elections went through quite okay at the end of the day. You see, I think this will have to be seen purely on a case-to-case basis. And of course, this time when we send the observers to, normally also when we send the observers to the state, the commission has a very detailed meeting with them in Delhi. And these days sometimes such meetings take place on a virtual basis. But we will kind of bring all this to the notice of the observers and tell them to be specially on watch for this.
Yeah, Mr. Arora, this is Shumon Ray from Republic TV. You have already said a lot of things about what you will do, but a lot of things has already happened, and we have video evidence of that. Stone being pelted, the sloganeering has happened during the rallies and otherwise as well. So, what election commissioner, as an election commissioner and the entire election commission will do to whatever has come to you so far? I'm not talking about future, I'm talking about the present.
Election Commission comes into picture legally after the elections are announced and the MCC comes into force. Prior to that, Election Commission has no right under the law to be kind of doing except getting the feedback on issues. So I don't know which particular area you are talking about. Although Republic TV always knows much more in advance. So, but if there is a particular instance which you can bring to our notice even just now.
No, sir, I just take a question. Not advance, it happened during the rally. There it's recorded.
Let's
all the
move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Right?
One by one, please.
The next one, right?
रूमा पाल फ्रॉम एबीपी आनंदो, क्या पश्चिम बंगाल में हिंसा मुक्त चुनाव करवाना इलेक्शन कमीशन के लिए एक बड़ा चैलेंज है?
कहीं भी इलेक्शन जहाँ भी हम चुनाव कराते हैं वहाँ there are number of challenges, series of challenges, combination of challenges, different kind of challenges and at different times. Maybe in some state expenditure is a very big challenge. The pilferage of money, distribution of money is a very big challenge. It's some place topography, physical infrastructure is a very big challenge. Most of the northeast states, its election commission is meant to be combating these challenges. We combat here also whatever challenges come.
चुनाव कर्मी भी अपनी सुरक्षा को लेकर डरे हुए हैं। वो कह रहे हैं कि वोट बॉयकॉट कर देंगे अगर सुरक्षा न मिली तो। चुनाव कर्मी, वोट कर्मी जो हैं, चुनाव से जुड़े जो
every time some kind of a memorandums come, eventually our CEOs and all, they resolve those.
Sir, very good afternoon.
आपका आखिरी सवाल लीजिए.
Sir, very good afternoon. I am Orko from the Telegraph. I just wanted to add something to Shoibal's question. Sir, some of the political parties had spoken to us yesterday and they had said that in the correspondence they had made to you yesterday, they had said that central forces which will be deployed for the state must be commanded by the center and not by the state police. So, I'm not going to ask you if you will see to it or like will that happen. I'm just asking you, do you think that the state police is incapable of like commanding or like directing the central forces during the election period?
No, that is, the central forces have a very rigid structure of reporting. They report to their commandants and all that. But there is one thing called under the state police. The other thing which actually happens is coordination. You see, even within the state, now you have so many agencies. If you want to take punitive action against, let's say, illegal money or freebies, many agencies have to coordinate. In fact, one of the questions we asked the Principal Secretary Home today is, what are the institutional arrangements for coordination with their own state officers and central officer agencies? So, I don't think the word close coordination could become a synonymous for control. It never was, it never is, it will never happen.
We've covered a wide range. Last question here.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Reshi from Times Now. So my question to you is, we saw during the Panchayat election, several people were not able to go and cast their ballot.
Kindly speak loudly.
Sir, during the Panchayat election, we saw that several voters were not able to cast their ballot and not give their candidates. This time, how will the Election Commission ensure that people in West Bengal can go out and cast their ballot without facing any political violence?
We have already decided that we will, when MCC is actually announced in force, we will not these so-called bike rallies happen here. We will formally pass an order. Panchayat elections are conducted by the state machinery. Election Commission doesn't come into picture at all. Election Commission is nothing to do in that sense with elections to the rural local bodies or urban local bodies. But as far as this election is concerned, besides telling them that there is no civic police now and no green police, and there shall also be no bike rallies, we shall be taking a series of measures, and I would request Mr. Jain and Dr. Aftab to brief you as much as possible so that in fact you can spread our message across.
Thank you so much.